and welcome to Today in Woburn. Today we have some very special guests with us who are here to talk about all of our town's response to the coronavirus and all the wonderful things that are happening to protect us and keep us safe. What may not be obvious on camera, but I want you to know, is that we have been Clorox wiping the heck out of our seats and our microphones and everything around us. We also are actually not sitting near each other. We're actually sitting quite a far distance from each other. So you might have some awkward camera angles, and we're swapping some people out on microphone here and there. And we're doing that to keep everybody safe and to make sure that we're practicing all the things that we're going to talk to you about. Our first guest today is Mayor Scott Galvin. Mayor Scott, thank you for being with us very much.
Thank you, and thanks for providing the opportunity for us to share this information. Thank you.
We have, and for those of you who are watching, I have a whole bunch of questions. I have questions that I wrote, but I also talked to a number of neighbors via chat and phone calls today to get some of the most common questions that we've been asked out there to make sure that we're giving out information that's going to be most applicable. So thank you for joining us again. There's an awful lot that is happening behind the scenes that most of us as residents don't actually see happening. Can you tell us a little bit about how the city has come together to address this health concern and all the work that's happening out there?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So one of the things about this, like you said, there's a lot that goes on behind scenes, and we've got a great emergency management team which has been assembled to combat this virus and help stop the spread and try to keep our residents and our employees as safe as we possibly can. So we put that team together, and the team consists of a number of people who you would generally think. Of course, the superintendent of public schools, police chief, fire chief, public works, IT. We've got the auditor on for expenses. We think at some point it's really important to track all these costs associated with what could be very expensive to the city and the school, and we're hoping, but it may not happen, but if we keep good track of our expenses, there may be a point where the federal government or state government gives us some reimbursement for those expenses. So he's an important part of the team. And of course the Board of Health and the Board of Health nurse, which are very important parts. So we meet as a team, and then a smaller group of us meet, which is very important, which is again myself, the superintendent, and the fire chief and the police chief, boots on the ground along with the DPW. Those are the most important people to really address the needs of the people.
Thank you for bringing all those people together.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute about first responders. They have a very important job right now. There still needs to address fires. They still need to show up to 911 calls.
Yeah.
They're often the front lines of injuries. What are some of the things that we're doing to protect them while making sure that the important service that they provide is not disrupted?
Right. So when you talk about public safety, there's really the three groups. Fire, the fire EMT, they're right on the front line. Police, and of course the DPW, which lends support for resources when needed. But those three. But when you talk about the people that are really going in there and are being exposed quite dangerously by the coronavirus, it's the fire and the police. And usually what you'll find in most cases, the police are the first ones to respond because they've got the sector cars in different parts of the city, and usually the police respond first. And Chief Rufo has put out a standard operating procedure on how his men are to respond, and they're in a nutshell, they're told to get to the scene when they get there first, not to go in unless it's life-threatening. So if there was a life-threatening incident going on, they would go in with the protective gear that they have, but they've been told, or their standing orders, to get there, secure the scene, and wait for the fire to get there. And the fire are much more well-equipped with the EMT, with the masks and the gown that they're supposed to put on, and they go in to go into the situation and help the person who's got the virus or whatever, or not, hopefully.
Yeah, and they could be responding to everyday types of things and not know. So I'm glad to hear that we've got some extra cautions in place.
Absolutely.
To protect that. While we're talking about sort of the medical care side of this, is Winchester Hospital accommodating of us? Are there other places that have testing available? What should we know about where to seek help if we suspect that we have coronavirus?
Right. Well, what we would say, remember, is we're trying not to overburden the hospital. So what we're saying is, right, if you think you're sick, you should call your primary care physician, and they'll do maybe a triage over the phone. And If they feel that they need you to come in, they'll have you come in to their office, and then they'll, again, look at you a little closer, and if they feel that you meet the symptoms, they'd contact the Leahy. The Leahy's the,
Okay.
Associated Winchester, the same. The Leahy is doing testing, but, tests, as you heard, are still limited, and there's a screening process that now is done by your physician, where before you used to get approval from the Department of Public Health. Now they've loosened that standard up, so your treating physician has a little bit more leeway in what they do. But again, what we do urge people is to remain calm. Try to remember when unless it's an emergency, life-threatening, we're trying to say, take a step back, call your primary care, and tell them what your symptoms are, and they'll try to triage you over the phone and send you in the right direction.
Thank you. I know a lot of people have noticed we've sort of seen reductions in well care visits and routine surgeries that are not life-threatening or required emergencies, and that's to keep our staff available of healthcare providers. So, practice patience, talk to your doctor. If you are having severe symptoms where you're having trouble breathing or your fevers are spiking very high, of course, do the things that you need to keep safe, but let's keep the care available.
I don't want to miss it, but don't forget that the fire department is extremely busy, like you had mentioned. Not only are they now responding to this heightened concern, but they also have, fires, and they have other calls to do. So we're just urging people, if it's an emergency, that's what the EMT is for. Remember, it's for an emergency. So if it's not, we, by all means, if it is an emergency, call. But if you don't, they're not there simply to transport people to the hospital. But if it's an emergency, please call. But remember, they are busy, and that's the message.
And they are, and we thank them for that. Right now, there are a lot of state restrictions and also decisions we've made on a local basis of things that are closed down.
Right.
And I know there's been a lot of communications about that. Dr. Crowley's here, so we'll reserve our conversation about schools until he joins the conversation.
Sure.
But also, I'm going to run down a list. Tell me what I'm missing, right? Sports games and public groups like that, performances, library, senior center, church services, is that correct? In-restaurant dining, although we encourage you to order takeout or gift cards and things to help support our local businesses. Movie theaters?
Yes.
Okay. Courts, what's the situation in courts right now?
At this point, they're closed today and tomorrow.
Okay.
And again, that'd be a function solely of the governor, and he'll make that decision.
Okay. City Hall is also, the building is closed?
City Hall is closed to the public, but business as usual. So we're saying, look, there's people, we have the regular staffing there. Staffing, of course, we've had meetings today to say, if your department can't operate with, like we have here, the social distancing, we'll have to come up with plans that they are sent home on a rolling basis. But we are fully staffed at this point, business as usual. We think that, between, the services that you need, if you need to pay a bill, we're urging you to do it online. We also have Dropbox, a Dropbox out front. So if you wanted to come and drop your payment, feel free to do that. Online, it's the way of the future. I know sometimes people aren't comfortable, so that's why we have the Dropbox. We also have issues with permitting, and all our permitting forms are available online to download. Fill them out, bring them back in, and if you have any questions, like I said, City Hall is fully staffed, and your questions will be answered very quickly.
Now, I know this is a very evolving situation, and we're watching what happens, and all of this work that we're doing is to protect us and to slow the spread of the virus, to make sure we don't overwhelm our healthcare system. How will a decision be made to either extend closures, and then once it's made, how do we communicate that to folks?
So the governor's order was, working with Matt Crowley, a good decision, which was prior to the governor's decision. We had talked about closing the schools for 2 weeks. Governor's order superseded that, so they're closed for 3 weeks. The decision again will be made. I'm sure that the governor's been great. We've been in close contact with the governor, and I'm sure at that time he'll advise us if he's going to extend it or not. And if he doesn't extend it, then we can also look at what we see as the facts. But I think he's got some good experts advising him, and we'll know in advance of that 3 weeks what the extension's going to be.
Great. Now, I also feel very lucky. I'm in a position where I have enough cash liquidity to go out and bulk buy groceries for 2 or 3 weeks at the expectation of being home, trying to limit my
Right.
going into grocery stores or just being out, and just the fact that I've now got a bunch of teenagers home hungry
Yeah.
that have nothing to do.
Same here.
And so we're
Yeah.
eating a lot in my house right
Yeah.
now, to say the least. But we do have a number of families who are what I would call food
Sure.
insecure in Woburn, who don't have the luxury of bulk buying.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that we're doing as a city to help alleviate that concern from those folks?
Well, it's a great question, and one of the things we have is the Council of Social Concern, which you're well aware of. They've got
Yes.
the food pantry, and they're always, it's a great place. That's a real great place if you want to make some donations, bring your food up there. And a lot of, when you have these situations like this, Woburn is really a great community, and we've already had so many people contacting us about how they can help. They want to help, and it's a good feeling, when you have something like this happen and all these people step up. And I know Matt's got he's got probably a similar story than I do, but it really makes you feel good. But at this point, I'd urge these people who are looking to do something, start with the Council of Social Concern, because their food pantry is going to run low. And the other thing that you hit on is that, you're able to buy your groceries. I'm able to buy my groceries, but, some of the hoarding behavior, which we see is really, has got to stop. And you can only have so much food, and the run has to stop. And it's like the stuff with the toilet paper, we joke, it's like toilet paper, you can't eat that stuff, and you can only use so much of it. So be considerate to everybody else and stop the hoarding, because we don't have a food crisis. Plenty of food, plenty of supplies. So, let's just take a step back, not panic, and this too shall pass,
I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's important to note that even in countries that have more severe lockdowns than we have right now, food supply, groceries, pharmacies remain open.
Right.
That there is things that we're doing to make sure that that continues. I know many of the grocery stores that were out of stock over the weekend, and many things have started to restock already. I also want to give a shout out. I think, the grocery store clerks and all the people who are doing the transportation of food and stuff, there's some first responders right now,
Yeah.
because it has been very, very hectic, and I know we're very grateful for them, continuing to do the work they do. And I have to say, I've been very proud of Woburn. People have been very patient. They're respectful of each other in line. People are trying to give extra space. I've been really appreciative of that. One of the things we can do is spend time outside by ourselves,
Right.
not necessarily with large groups. What are some of the things that we might be doing? Maybe the rec department, are they doing any online types of things? Is there anything outdoor that you want us to be aware of so
Right.
we protect each other?
Yeah, and it's a great point. I mean, staying healthy, getting the right amount of sleep, eating, and staying hydrated, it's all really important. Getting good exercise. I mean, we've got a great facility out here. My gym unfortunately closed, and all the other gyms are closed as well by order of the governor, which I think was a good move. But you go right outside. We've got a track. You've got turf. It's a great place if you're looking to, do some exercise. You don't have to look any further than that. We've got Haunt Pond. But your question about online programming, we also mentioned the library is
Yes.
closed to the public, but they're operating to continue supplying services to the residents. One of them, the big thing that I talked about to our director, Bonnie Ralston, who's fantastic, she's really doing a great job over there, was to make sure people can get access to books on a daily basis. So they're going to do the physical books. They'll do a drop-off where people call in and they can pick their books up. But she's been a whiz with the online stuff and streaming programs like cooking classes and all that stuff. So I would say that the library is a fantastic resource for online services, and I urge everybody to call the library or go to their website and take advantage of a lot of good program that they're going to continue streaming. So
Yeah,
good
I
service.
love it. I don't know how many of you have watched, but the library put out a "Wash Your Hands" song that had me giggling.
Oh, yeah.
But it was also really, fun and playful. So excellent resources. Is there a central place, like is the city website, and it's really hard to stay on top of this place, is there a place that people can go if they're just trying to look, is something closed? Is there an update? And it's 2 in the morning and they're trying to look for a fast answer. Where can they go to
If you
get
go to the
things?
city's website, that we have, I think we do a pretty good job updating what's been going on, try to do something daily about, where we are, new closures, because as you said, it's a fluid situation. you know, and things could change tomorrow, so we do urge people to check our website out. Schools do a great job with their website. Matt can talk more about that, but they do a fantastic job. We have on our website, I encourage people to go there for the information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been incredibly helpful. Anything else that you want to add before I bring Dr. Crowley on?
No, I think it's a great service that, you know, Woburn Public Media is offering, and like I said to you, I'd be happy to come on if you know, Brian wants to. I'd come on weekly as things do change, and if you wanted to, you know, we could come in, you know, every Monday at this time. I'd be happy to. So,
Great.
and I think it might be a good opportunity to get the information out on another venue like this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us, and thank you for listening. Dr. Crowley is going to join us in a minute. I think it's a great, thank you for offering to do regular updates. I think it's really important in this time of uncertainty, as we have so much information floating around, that we share accurate information, that we be patient with each other, that we be kind to each other, and that we be understanding. And I thank and welcome Dr. Crowley, who's joining us today. He's going to talk about the schools and some of the things that we have going on there. As a parent, I know that we're going through, welcome Dr. Crowley, we're going through a lot of disruption, and there are seniors who are concerned about things like AP exams and proms, legitimately. There are younger students who are learning to read who are worried about disruption in their program. Being closed for at least 3 weeks, potentially longer. What is the school doing, let's say first, to help those families who rely on school breakfast and lunch?
Sure.
Let's start there.
Great. So starting today, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. at the high school here and at the Alta Vesta, we are doing a grab-and-go lunch. And then starting this coming Wednesday, we're expanding to include breakfast as well. Same locations, 8:30 to 10 a.m. and then 11 to 1. That's an example, though. I mean, this morning we were only doing lunch, and this afternoon we're doing breakfast and lunch.
Great.
And so we're really trying to meet the needs of our kids who are food insecure, and there's a real thing and a real stress.
Thank you for doing that. And I just got a communication, my son goes to Northeast Metro Tech, so I
Right.
got a communication that those students also should come to the high school,
Yeah,
correct?
so, right. Listen, we're going to feed people when they show up. Doesn't matter what school you go to.
Yeah.
I mean, we have students, kids that live in Woburn that may attend a different school for whatever reason. If they're hungry, please come.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I know this is in the staff that's preparing the food and doing all that. We
Right.
really appreciate that. What is
Yeah,
our...
can I just comment
please
on that?
do,
Because
please.
you know, our cafeteria workers are really going the extra mile here, as are some of the nurses, school nurses volunteering to make sure that we're keeping social distancing even during this grab and go time. And so it really, I want to make sure that we recognize their efforts as, you know, we are closed. And I did hear your question specific to the learning side. Our facilities department is actually working now too. So, you know, they've been doing a great job prior to closure. When we closed on Friday, we had an early release day. At that point, there were no confirmed cases in Woburn, so I feel at the schools very comfortable with the decision to close and to have them deeply cleaned. And obviously, as the mayor alluded to and the governor spoke to last night, we're closed through April 7th, and so at least. And so there's some time to make sure that we're doing as good a job to make sure schools are safe when we reopen.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for making the decision that you made, because we didn't have all the information you needed. And a couple days later, you know, we got more clarity from state guidance, but that's a lot of pressure on you. This is like calling a snow day. And we recognize that, and you know, we thank you for doing that. This is hard work. There are some communities that are doing distance learning that have sent home packets or things. We are, you know, a unique community as all of theirs. Should this go longer than 3 weeks, what are we hoping to do to address the education gap that could cause?
Yeah, it's a great and valid question. So right now, I would direct people to the Woburn Public Schools website. We do have a link. It's called Extended Learning, with many resources for K-5, 6, 8, and then the high school. There are activities that kids can do either independently or with families. So they're trying to create opportunities for parents to teach kids, and Those are online right now and will be updated probably every day. All that to say, I am working with regional superintendents to create some kind of unified platform. You know, we're all going through the same thing. We don't all need to reinvent the wheel. So the goal is to push out learning plans in a way that makes sense for each community. As you know, Woburn is not a one-to-one district, and we want to make sure that kids have access. In other words, if we're pushing things out digitally and they don't have access, you know, we need to be respectful of that. And so trying to manage that equity piece with that need to kind of, continue learning is a balance, but, you know, we're working through it. The other part of the learning and the supports that the school provides are the social emotional needs of kids. And, you know, as we go into the social distancing, you know, I'm a little, it's on my mind that, you know, I'm aware that, you know, this is, it's a new uncharted territory for everybody, but we have kids that have social emotional needs. And so we're trying to think of ways to expand counseling, whether it's via iPad, or Zoom, or, you know, whatever the technology that we arrive at. Because again, you know, you have the academic part of school, but then the social emotional part of school, and trying to take care of the whole child during this time is really something that we're trying to manage in real time to make sure that kids get what they need.
Yeah, well, thank you. It is not easy. There is an awful lot that takes a toll on this. It's anxiety riding for children. It's stressful for people in various stages. Do we have any, I got this question a lot. I went out to the community, a small group of people, and said, what would you like to know? And there's a lot of questions about MCAS. I know we don't have answers, but do you have opinions or a process about how we're going to get to an answer that you can share with us today?
Sure. So I've been on multiple conference calls with the Commissioner Riley at the Department of Ed. And right now, I can tell you that the high school ELA 10th grade MCAS, which was scheduled for late March, is postponed indefinitely. You know, the priority is health, right? We all recognize this is a public health crisis. I have not heard anything from the state specific to MCAS. You mentioned earlier College Board because of the AP. You know, they have indicated some flexibility, and this is something, again, not just Woburn, like the whole country. And so, you know, I really hope that, you know, that the state, testing is a requirement. So I know, you know, Commissioner Riley's working with the legislature to kind of see what kind of flexibility we can come up with. That shouldn't be the priority right now.
Yeah, I agree. And luckily, the next person we have to speak with is State Representative Rich Haggerty. So we'll talk a little bit about the legislative side of things. Thank you for being with us today and helping get some clarity about what we do know. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us? Anything that you want parents to know or be doing to help support the things that you're doing?
You know, I'd just like to thank the parent community and the community at large. They've been very respectful and responsive to our fluidity. It's not an easy position to be in. I want them to know we're always going to look out for the best interests of their kids, and hopefully we get back to school. But, you know, until it's safe to do so, we're going to follow the guidance that is provided. So, and you know.
Thank you very much, and we really appreciate you coming in today, and we'll continue to get updates from you and for your leadership and through all of this.
Great.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So next up we have Rich Haggerty, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the legislative support we have. As you heard from Dr. Crowley, there are some incredible resources available for us. Please come on and join us. There's some incredible resources for us that are available to both entertain and educate your kids. I've seen some great stuff out there for scholastic books and lots of things that are making things available. So during this time, it's important that we have things to do to keep our mind busy as well as our bodies busy. So we appreciate you sharing that with us. Welcome, Rich. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. So there has been so much we've talked about from a local level. There's so much going on from the school systems, but we also have a lot that's happening from a legislative side. Right. And appreciate you coming in to talk about those. I'd like to start today by just understanding. I understand there has been a number of things that have already been put in place. Can you talk about what they are?
Sure. So I guess a couple of things. I mean, obviously, you've talked quite a bit with the mayor and with the superintendent about some of the steps the governor's taken over the course of the last, not just 24 hours, but really over the course of the last 5 or 6 days that has made a substantial impact in our daily lives, and all appropriate given the level of the health crisis that we're at right now. So certainly, the social distancing that's going on with regards to lowering the number of folks who are allowed to gather at one time, the steps taken in order to make sure that we don't have folks congregating in restaurants and bars is another good step in the right direction. Some of the healthcare steps that were taken with regards to making sure that the GIC and also all healthcare plans provide free testing for anybody who wants it, which is a great step in the right direction. We want to make sure people don't have to go in to pay a copay or any other associated fees if, in fact, for some reason they feel like they've been exposed. We want those folks to feel comfortable going into hospitals, getting tested, et cetera. So those are just some of the good things that we've done over the course, I think, in the last several days that have put us in a better position to be able to hopefully lower the impact of this and, of course, stop the spread of disease.
Yeah, thank you. That's a lot to get done quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't want to underestimate how important that has been to us and the things that it surprised people. There's no intention to shut down things like grocery stores and pharmacies that will remain open. We need to protect those food sources. But there is some concern about transportation and cross-state supplies and things. Is there anything that we should know that the State House is doing to make sure that we keep those well-stocked and available for people?
Sure. Well, I think that people have talked about making sure that people are stocking up appropriately but not overdoing it. Because that's been obviously a concern when you got people walking out with 55 rolls of toilet paper and things like that. It's not necessary. Or as the governor indicated about the somebody overbuying soup for 3 years or something. We want to make sure that folks have an ample supply for their families, but we also want to make sure that everybody else has an ample supply for their families. And that's something I think people have been more conscious of, I think, even just in the last 24 hours. Our supermarkets are going to continue to receive deliveries. They're going to continue to be resupplied so that folks can have the resources they need and the stockpile of food and everything else to make sure that their families are secure and they're able to hopefully stay home and stay safe. Great.
Are there additional things that you're hoping to do in the State House to help provide some relief? I don't know if that means some legislation around extending low payments or stopping evictions or things that might help us address what could be an extended period of sequester or limited movement.
Yeah, I can tell you, I was in the State House this morning. We had an informal session this morning at 11 o'clock, and some of the discussions that are going on, particularly around UI benefits, to make sure that folks have the ability to be able to apply for unemployment insurance and they can get those benefits in a timely manner. I know the governor put forward legislation that was filed this morning that would take away the delay in getting unemployment benefits, which right now is about a week, so it would do away with that. Another measure that's been talked about is allowing folks who have been displaced by particularly the restaurant ban that's been put in place. Those folks really, we hope, are only going to be displaced for 2 to 4 weeks. So we want to make sure that those folks are able to actually get unemployment benefits. And what that's going to look like and how they're able to get them is certainly something that we're going to have conversations on. And then beyond that, I think even the Department of Labor, from the federal level, has talked even more about trying to provide some better assistance for folks, in the Commonwealth, and we're keeping an eye on that.
Great. I know that some of the online services that do food delivery, like the Instacarts and the local services that do that, even Amazon food pantries, have had extended delays in being able to schedule an appointment time because of the increase in need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there, for those folks who are having trouble getting food, they're worried about it, they can't drive to the food pantry or anything, what would you advise them? Who should they be reaching out to to make sure that they get the help they need.
Sure. Well, I guess, I mean, food insecurity is an ongoing issue, right? It's not new given this crisis. It's something that obviously Superintendent Crowley just spoke about. And I think that the school department is a great resource for folks who have families to be able to make sure that even though the kids are out of school, they're able to actually access lunch or breakfast right here at one of our facilities in Woburn. So that's a great opportunity, I think, for folks to be able to utilize. Beyond that, certainly you want to be reaching out to social concern. Specific instances, call them, talk to them, reach out to them via their website, send an email, explain to them the situation. And I would also underscore that volunteers, people who have, a lot of people are going to have some time in their hands. Send an email off to some of these organizations and say, if you need assistance in, picking up and dropping off at somebody's home, that you're able to do that. Those types of things I think will go a long way towards making sure that the folks who need the assistance and need the help can actually get it.
Great, I love that. And for those of you who are listening, there's some great people. I've seen some really wonderful communications both on Everything's Free Woburn Facebook page, the Woburn Residents page. There's a spin-off that is specifically around an interim community need to connect people who might need assistance on Facebook as well. And I know there are other resources, so I encourage you, if you need help, ask for it. This is the time to ask for it. There are loads of people in the community who want to make sure that people have the care both medically as well as food and safety measures.
Can I just touch base on one other
please.
thing? I know that you asked what other steps that we're taking, and the Small Business Administration, the federal level, is a group that we've reached out to as a state to make sure that they're aware of how severe it's impacting our local businesses and our small businesses. And one of the programs they offer is once it triggers, it's a low interest short-term loan for small business owners up to $2 million to be able to continue to provide for operating cost, rent, cost of health care, payrolls, et cetera. And it's a short-term loan program. And that's something that's being worked on right now by the Commonwealth to make sure that some of these small businesses who are trying to bridge the gap between today and the next 4 weeks, who maybe want to pay their employees, hopefully they do, that's what we want them to do, or somebody who wants to make sure they get their rent on time but maybe doesn't have a ton of cash in the bank, that they've got resources available. And I would also encourage those small business owners, whether they're a restaurant or somebody else who's being impacted by this, to reach out to a local bank, get a recurring line of credit, something like that, to be able to make sure that you've got that safety net so that if in fact you do need to tap into that, you've got a resource to be able to do that, to pay your bills and to take care of your employees, which we want to send a real clear message on. We want people to be responsible business owners and taking care of their employees.
Yeah, thank you very much for raising that. I think those are very important real issues. And I'm glad to hear that we have resources that are trying to expedite processes for people, because those things can take some time, and we don't a lot of people don't have a lot of time.
Absolutely.
It is possible that in 2 weeks or 4 weeks from now we will all be back open, and that will happen. Not a lot of the science tells us that.
Sure.
The science tells us that we're likely to have an extended period of some social distancing, that will in fact be working, but will need longer to continue to work and to finish out its process.
Absolutely.
Should that be happening, what are the places that we want to make sure that people are, what's the process that you're going through in the State House to make sure that all of this is being communicated, that all these decisions that are impacting people have access to things they need? Should we need to continue?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. I think that locally as well as state, from the state perspective, I think we've done a pretty good job so far of letting folks know what's going on. I'm trying my best to share all of that information on Facebook, on Twitter. I know the mayor's done a great job of that as well. He's got a ton of information on the City of Woburn's website. Mass.gov has a dedicated website specifically to deal with the coronavirus. So I would say if you go to mass.gov, at the very top it says, click on this link, and it takes you to a page that has all the executive orders as well as other directives, whether it be healthcare related, transportation related, UI benefits related, whatever the question may be. So I think mass.gov is a terrific opportunity for folks to be able to get some of that information they're looking for. And again, I think I would be a little bit skeptical of some of the things that's out there on Facebook. If your friend from college shares something that seems a little strange, rely upon, I think, your elected officials, rely upon, your municipality, your state, to be able to provide you the best accurate information, make sure that you know that it's real and that it's accurate.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. I think that's really important.
And thank you for doing this.
Yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I think as this plays out, my office is going to continue to be able to be available for everybody so that if they have a question on something related to UI benefits, or they have a question related to a small business loan, or they have any other question related to how to kind of navigate state government, that we're here to help. They can email me at richard richard.haggerty@mahouse.gov, my legislative aide, anthony.langone@mahouse.gov, and we're happy to help them navigate that system, not just today, but in the coming weeks and really beyond, because we know that this is something that we're going to, hopefully we're going to get over this quickly, but we know that there's going to be some lingering effects, and we want to make sure that we're a resource for everybody in our communities.
Great, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this information has been helpful. As you can tell, our city leaders are very available to us and want to make the time to communicate. So if you have questions that were not answered, certainly reach out to them, reach out to us, let us know. We'll make sure to try and connect as much information as we can. Be safe, be careful, and remember that all the closures and all those things, while they're a difficult situation for many of us, they have the opportunity to work, and we have some wonderful modelings in other countries that have taken similar measures that have actually done some remarkable things to keep the spread of the virus to a manageable amount so that healthcare workers can do all the things that they do. Protect, if you're having food delivery, make sure to try and have no contact food deliveries where you can. Tip well when we're seeing people. Help out friends and neighbors, get in touch with people, and help people get answers to questions that they may have. Overall, just continue to be who Woburn is. This is an incredible community, and I've been very, very grateful for all the help offers that I've seen all across a whole bunch of mediums when it comes down to it. So thanks for being there for each other.